Welcome to Axiom Automaton, where I'm here to teach you everything about automation. Today, I'm going to show you guys how to make recurring tasks in Airtable. To do that, we're going to use the example on screen. We have an Airtable base for our fake social media business, and inside that base, we have a table called Task List 2. This is our list of tasks. It has both recurring and non-recurring tasks. Each task is a record, which has the task, a due date, a done status, which is a check mark that's either checked or unchecked, and a recurring check mark or lack of check mark. A task is checked as recurring if, you guessed it, our task should be made to recur. So how we're going to do this is we're going to assume that every task that is recurring should recur daily. So then what we're going to do is set up an automation that will allow us to automatically update the due date to tomorrow whenever the done status becomes checked. In other words, we have a task, it's marked as recurring. If we mark it done, then the due date will automatically roll forward until tomorrow. So let's get started. Click on Automations, scroll down, create a custom automation. We're going to call our automation Daily Recurring Tasks. First, we need to create a trigger. So our trigger is going to be when a record is marked done. So when a record matches condition, that sounds right. First, we have to select the table, task list 2, and our condition is when done is checked. So this automation will be triggered whenever there's a record and done is checked on that record. So let's test the trigger. And it says, table does not contain any records that match the provided filters. This is because in our table, we don't have any tasks that are marked as done. And Airtable wants to test to make sure that this automation is working. Let's go back. Let's check this first task is done. Now let's go back to the automation, go back to our trigger, and let's scroll down and test our trigger again. There we go, step successful. All right, next, you see that there's a big box here that says add action. That's actually not what we want. We want to add a conditional action because we want to make sure that we only run this on tasks that are recurring. So we need to check if it's conduring, and that check is a condition. So click on this second button down here. Run actions in this group if, and then we need to specify our condition. So if record from step 1, yes, we want to deal only with this record, one record at a time. And we want to check if recurring is checked. All right, now let's test our condition. Step successful. All right. And now we want to add an action. So we've checked if recurring is checked, add action. Again, we're not adding just a generic action. We're only adding an action down here that's run after our condition is satisfied. So add action. What we want to do is to update a record. And it's a little bit annoying that Airtable makes you re-specify the table every time, but that's because Airtable automations are very powerful. They can actually reach across different tables within a database. So again, task list 2. And again, we need to specify the record ID, which is the same record we've been dealing with. So continue, and then insert Airtable record ID. And now we need to choose the field. So we want to update due date. And here we run into a problem because what we want to do is we want to specify the due date to be tomorrow, but we can't actually use any of the date functions within an Airtable automation. So to work around this, what we need to do is we're going to go back, X out of this automation, and now what we're going to do is create another field. And this field is going to compute the date for tomorrow. So it's just sort of a throwaway field that doesn't have any purpose to us human users, but it's going to be used by our automation to update the due date field when necessary. So let's create add field. We'll call our field tomorrow. Now we're going to scroll down and we're going to click Formula. Now, what we're going to do is there is a function built into Airtable called dateAdd, and it takes 3 arguments: a starting date, a number, and a unit of time. So the first argument will start with today, which is another Airtable function that returns today's date. Next, we're going to put in 1 because we want to add 1 day. And then our third argument, we're going to put in days. So start with today's date and add 1 day. Let's create our field. And there you have it. Today is the 26th, so tomorrow is the 27th. That's correct. Now you'll notice that this tomorrow field also has a time. We don't actually want a time field in our database, so how are we going to fix that? What we're going to do is we need this to be formatted the same way as the due date column. So let's go back here and customize field type. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the format for this date. We're going to write date time underscore format, and that is itself a function which takes in 2 arguments. That first argument is exactly what we had before, dateAdd today 1 days. So this is tomorrow's date time. But now in the second argument, we're going to put in this L within quotes. And what that's going to do is it's going to format our date as just a date without any time. Let's go ahead and save. And there you go. Now you see we have the expected tomorrow's date. All right, so now we can go back to our automation. And keep this in mind. Note, right now, the due date is today, the 26th of February. Our tomorrow column says the 27th of February. And our done checkbox is checked for that first to-do list item. So let's go back to our automation. Scroll down to where we were, update record. And our action, what we were trying to do is we were trying to set the due date to be tomorrow. So now let's click this plus. And yes, we want our record from the previous steps. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down and we're going to insert the value from the tomorrow column. Now let's test our action. Step successful. All right, let's go back. And now our automation is complete. However, we still have not updated the due date. So let us go back to automation. So before we do that, let's, because we tested, mess something up. So let's add in our due date. Let's turn our automation on. Go back. Out. And let's check this is done. And there you go. Our due date automatically updated. Now, you'll notice this was updated. However, the done check mark is still checked. So really what we need to do is also uncheck this done check mark. So let's go back to our automation. Turn it back off. Let's go back. Reset our setup. So move the due date back to today. All right, so now we're in the same starting point. Go back to automation. We're going to edit the automation. So we have if recurring is checked, update our record. What we're going to do is just add another action in a sequence. And what this action will be is it will also be to update the record. The same table again, task list 2. Record ID will again be the same record. Both of these are actually the same. Our field, done. And to mark a check mark as unchecked, we will just put a 0 here. All right, so let's test our action. Step successful. All right, let's activate our automation. We'll go back. Now, we'll mark this as done. And then when we mark this as done, we expect the due date to update to be tomorrow. And we expect this to go back to being unclicked. So watch carefully. Click. Now we're waiting for the automation to run. And there you have it. This updated and that unchecked, just as expected. Thanks for watching, guys. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe and share with anyone else who you think might find it useful.